Thank you all for being here and shining a spotlight on what's happening here in our capital in the waning days of June. I'm Chris Larson, State Senator representing the 7th Senate District, Milwaukee South Suburbs, and have the privilege of serving as the ranking member on the Senate Education Committee. But most importantly, I'm also a proud public school parent of a second grader and a fifth grader who attend Fernwood Montessori, which is still in session. Like a lot of schools are still in session, which means that some of the most ardent public school supporters only had less than a week to be able to respond in the middle of the school year, or at the end of the school year, to try and get to the Capitol to let their voice be heard on what has become probably one of the worst public education bills we've seen moving through here. I think it's worth highlighting, as my colleagues have before me, that we have a $7 billion surplus. Wisconsin is flush with cash that we can invest to make sure that those priorities that were pushed by the wayside by politicians who said, if only we had the cash, we would invest in public schools for the last decade plus. We have had those politicians standing on the Cape of our young people as they're trying to take off and start their lives. And here we are today, still with $7 billion of a surplus, and not only are they continuing to stand on that cape, but to pull it lower to the ground, keeping the next generation from actually achieving all that they could. This hurts them, this hurts the next generation of Wisconsinites, and again, this is it's at the behest of special interest groups who are pushing for unaccountable vouchers to see the largest increase in 30 years. Public school advocates at the beginning of the budget process were asking for $1,500 per pupil over the cycle just to maintain where they were pre-pandemic, to make sure that their schools were funded at the same levels, that teachers could expect raises, that the students that expect the same teachers to be there would be there the next year. Unfortunately, in the end of this, that total falls over $600 short of just maintaining the equal level that it was before the pandemic. We are shortchanging the next generation, and this bill, SB 330, is the largest expansion of public funding for private schools in 30 years. I think the biggest punch in the gut is in terms of how much special education funding will be given to public schools at the end of this, which is 33% versus private vouchers. If they can prove that they are delivering the services which they are not required to do, they get a 90% reimbursement. It shows a clear contrast in priorities. The increase of funding for unaccountable private schools is even greater than those amounts listed, and that you and your organizations have been pointing out. In fact, in some of them, the increase doesn't just go up. In some cases where it was reported as being 10% in the terms of high school, it'll actually go up to 41%. In many cases, the voucher reimbursement at the end of the 2-year budget cycle will be greater than what the public schools in the same neighborhood are getting. That, I think, is worth reporting, because for the longest time there has been a moving target in terms of what voucher schools are supposed to supply. The competition, we were told, was supposed to increase the benefits for all public schools. That promise was broken and changed to we are going to be able to do this because they're more fluid. That changed to now they are saying that they are cheaper. At the end of this budget cycle, that will no longer be the case. Voucher schools will, in many cases, be getting more money than our public schools. If this bill moves forward, this will be the beginning of the end for a lot of rural schools across the state, which will find it to be a huge struggle to maintain their student populations with competition of private schools down the road, getting preferential treatment in terms of dollars, and not having to have teachers who actually have a teaching degree or a specialty in what they are teaching, much less having the ability to expel students that they find harder to teach. Our state constitution guarantees a public education for all Wisconsinites ages 4 to 20. What Republicans are proposing breaks that promise in favor of filling the coffers of private, mostly religious institutions who have the legal ability to discriminate against kids who are LGBT or have disabilities. With a $7 billion surplus, we can and must do better by all of our kids. Thank you. With that, I turn it back over to our leader, Senator Eggard.
Thank you, Senator Larson. So there you have it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.